what advice do you have to somebody who could be thinking of doing a PhD as an international student?
I think I'll give the advice that I would have wanted someone to give me when I started. It's being intentional about two things: the research topic and the location of study. So in terms of the research topic, a PhD, as you've already mentioned, is an independent piece of work. And in the UK, it's usually 3 to 4 years, and it can be very isolating. So I think you need to love what you're doing. You need to be able to visualize the impact of the work you're doing so that you have the intrinsic ability to be able to motivate yourself, especially in difficult times. Secondly, the location and the university environment.
Science. Technology. Medicine. Health. These four things make the world go round. Without them, we couldn't exist. This is the Monday Science Podcast, a weekly show bringing you the latest research and news in science, technology, medicine, and health, answering your questions or finding experts in the field to answer them. Your host is a pharmacist, an award-winning scientist. She leads her own research group and is the founder of King's College London Fight the Fakes. A tad bit on the qualified side. Welcome to Monday Science. Here's your host, Dr. Bahijja Raimi-Abraham.
On today's episode, I'm very lucky that I'm surrounded by such nice and hardworking people in my research group, the Raimi-Abraham Group, and one of them is here today. And this is Tamara. Tamara is a PhD researcher. Hi, Tamara. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm sure you didn't expect, as part of your PhD, to be asked to come on a podcast, in particular by your supervisor. But yet, here we are. Okay, so obviously I know about you, but this is an opportunity for everybody else to know about you.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for inviting me to speak on here. I'm really excited to be on here and to have this opportunity to talk about my PhD journey so far, my research, and particularly my experience having upgraded from MPhil to PhD status a few months ago.
Amazing. Congratulations on having this discussion today, because you achieved a really big milestone in your PhD, which you should celebrate, and celebration comes in the form of a podcast episode. So tell us about you.
So my name is Tamara and I am from Nigeria. I am a PhD researcher within the School of Cancer and Pharmaceutical Sciences at King's College London. I am a skincare fitness enthusiast. I'm also passionate about women empowerment and women's access to education.
And yes, your skincare routine, we can tell the positive outcomes and results from good skincare routine. But you mentioned that you're originally from Nigeria. I'm of Nigerian heritage as well. Why did you specifically decide to do a PhD?
Okay, so multiple factors contributed to my decision to do a PhD. Firstly, I was a very inquisitive child. My mom used to complain about how I asked a lot of questions. But also I was very artistic and I was creative. I loved drawing and I was very imaginative. But as I grew older, I developed this drive to impact people's lives through healthcare. A PhD allows me to combine all of those traits. So doing hands-on lab research and making these nanotherapeutic drugs as part of my research exercises my artistic creative nature. Also doing a PhD in pharmaceutics, I think goes well with my inquisitive nature and my intellectual drive to question things, and in this case, how to improve therapies. And overall, all of that fulfills my innate desire to save people's lives and to improve their treatment experience. So but also in addition to all of that, I come from a very academic-oriented family. So my grandfather was a village headmaster and he taught at the local schools, and my dad was a lecturer as well. So, but comparing that to the women in my family, my mom loves books, she loves education and school. But the thing is, I never saw that representation for the love of academia and learning in terms of the academic qualifications of a lot of the women in my family. And yes, access to resources and opportunity is a significant factor there. But at a young age, I challenged myself to work hard and just get the highest form of academic qualification in my field for myself mostly, but also to show other women in my family and in my community as well. It's possible.
Amazing, Tamara. Amazing. There's so many things I took from what you were saying, and also equally being inspired. I think one thing about us, and we've talked about this, is that a big driver for me as well is impact. And I think there's such a privilege in being a scientist. I actually spoke about this recently. I can't remember on what platform, but there's such a privilege in being a scientist because you are allowed to combine that aspect of yourself to impact and help people. And that's exactly what you're doing. And it's just amazing to hear your journey and the reason and the foundation behind how I've gotten to know you as being a member of the group. So that's amazing. I'm going to ask you a question which seems odd me asking you, but anyway, we're going to go for it. So what is your research about? What is your PhD research about?
Okay, so my PhD research aims to develop nanoparticles that have both treatment and diagnosis capabilities against latent TB infection. And the problem that I'm looking to solve here is the early detection and treatment of latent tuberculosis infection before it progresses to the active tuberculosis disease. And this is because currently tuberculosis causes the highest number of deaths from an infection caused by a single pathogen. It's even ranked above HIV. And the latent form of tuberculosis is estimated to have infected 1/4 of the world's population. So that's 1 in 4 persons. These people act as reservoirs for TB disease because about 5 to 10% of them will develop TB disease during the course of their lives. It's important to both detect and treat latent TB infection as early as possible before the disease develops.
Yes, that's brilliant. And it's a very exciting project. You're now in your 3rd year. I think, didn't I have a bit of a moment in one of our meetings? I think it was the first meeting of your 3rd year. And I was like, 3rd year. And I think that's one of the, with PhD, that it is a substantial amount of time in one's life. And then 1 minute it feels like it's dragging and the next minute it's speeding up. How do you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Since I think even COVID kind of sped up things because it seems like time has gone by very quickly.
Agreed. So you are an international student. What advice do you have to those who, somebody who could be thinking of doing a PhD as an international student?
I think I'll give the advice that I would have wanted someone to give me when I started. So I think it's being intentional about 2 things: the research topic and the location of study. So in terms of the research topic, a PhD, as you've already mentioned, is an independent piece of work. And in the UK, it's usually 3 to 4 years, and it can be very isolating. So I think you need to love what you're doing. You need to be able to visualize the impact of the work you're doing so that you have the intrinsic ability to be able to motivate yourself, especially in difficult times. Like, it's very important. I think that's one. And then secondly, the location and the university environment. I think somewhere where it's easy for you to adapt, a nurturing environment for you to thrive, and a place that provides resources, opportunities that support your growth and your goals as well. Yeah, so those are the advice. Those are the 2 things I think it should be.
That's really good insight, actually, because I'm not sure if I've ever asked you that question off air. That sounds really weird to say. And it's really good advice. And I know that that's definitely going to resonate with a lot of people, because hindsight is a beautiful thing, as they say. If only we could have somebody come from the future at the moment and you're like, oh, thank you for that. But no, that's a really good piece of advice. So we mentioned at the start that one of the reasons why we're doing this is to celebrate, well, it's many reasons, but one of the big achievements that you've had, the transferring from your MPhil to PhD with the upgrade. So for those who don't know, just tell us what an upgrade is. What is the MPhil to upgrade?
So usually enrollment or registration for a PhD degree begins an MPhil. Essentially, the MPhil to PhD upgrade is a formal assessment for upgrading to PhD status. And that assessment involves the submission of a 15 to 20,000 words, which includes 2 or more substantive chapters of a thesis, and also a research framework which specifies how the research is to be undertaken, right? expert. And then there's the Viva itself, where the candidate presents their research and then gets interviewed by a panel of researchers who are experts in their field. So yeah, that's what the MPhil to PhD upgrade is.
Brilliant. How did you prepare for your upgrade, and how was it for you?
So my preparation involved different things, to be honest, as usual. I attended workshops that were offered by King's, including the Upgrade MPhil to PhD workshop and other soft skill development workshops like presentation skills and writing skills and all of that. And I also spoke to other colleagues that had gone through the process about their experiences and just to get advice on how to be best prepared for it. And then personally, I made sure I was grounded in the whys of my project. So the problem to be solved, the research or therapeutic strategy, and analytical techniques that I planned to. And the reason being is just so I felt confident in the work I had done and what I was going to present on and talk about. I was also very aware of my mental state and well-being leading up to the date of the Viva. I was quite intentional about making sure I was able to function at my best or my highest capacity during the Viva. Yeah, so those are the things I did.
Yeah, no, really good. So many gems in what you said. Definitely, I guess, seeking help by way of the resources and the skills of the workshops and things available, which you definitely, obviously, you said you did, and I can attest to that. Not that this is a confession, but that is definitely important. And if I can give some feedback, this is like an insight into one of our meetings, but definitely that came through the sort of the training, the process. And I really like what you said about being mindful of what your mental health state, because I don't think we do that enough. When there's a big thing ahead, a lot of people actually burn out before the assessment, the thing. So I like that you took time to make sure that you were at your best. It's almost like an exam. Well, it is an exam, actually.
It is, yes. Yeah, because you're going to get all of that anxiety. You know, it's good to be aware of it and make sure you feel comfortable.
Definitely. And yeah, the whys of the work. And I find that when it comes to PhD, well, actually not just PhD, it's research in general. When the topic and when you're in that space, you're doing it day in, day out, you're reading this and the other. It's very easy for you to know the why, but it's hard to sometimes articulate that why to other people in a way that is palatable. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing about being, because there are different aspects of being a scientist that you have to work on, and communication is a very important one. And I think that's where it comes to play, because you need to be able to communicate your work to different types of audiences, right? Including people that understand the science and people that don't even understand what you're doing. So I think it's very important, learning how to communicate the whys and to make sure that the people that you're communicating it to understands it and understands why you're doing it.
Very good. So how was the upgrade experience for you, if you're happy to share?
It was a good experience overall. It was mainly because on the day of the Viva, as I said, I felt confident in all the work that I'd done and the preparation I'd done in the weeks and months leading up to it. I felt ready for it. And I think that's very important, making sure you feel prepared, because it helps and it even eases the anxiety that will be felt. So yeah, but also I did enjoy the interview section, although there were obvious straight up questions about my work and analytical techniques, data, but for the most part, it felt more like a discussion. I enjoyed entertaining comments on my research from all of these scientists who were experts in their fields, and I found that part of the Viva particularly invaluable to my work. So I was really appreciative of it.
Very good. I'm fascinated. One of the reasons why I actually wanted to do this sort of discussion with both you and Saad, having been successful with your upgrade, is because I didn't have an upgrade. So I was in my PhD. Yeah, my first Viva was my PhD Viva. Yeah, thank you. So yes, it was very scary, because when I was doing my PhD, there's a lot more structure in how PhDs are operated now. Even when I was doing my PhD, I remember my supervisor commented about how much structure my PhD had. And I was like, really? But these things so the upgrade from what I can see, and even what you sort of confirmed, it gives you that practice run as well before your actual PhD, your actual PhD Viva, your final PhD Viva, I should say. And some of the things that fascinate me is because I think to myself, obviously I passed my PhD, here I am, but I do wonder if I had, because it was like my PhD Viva was my first, and it was very stressful. I remember one of my friends, she walked me to where the room that I was going to have the examination, and then she said, okay, so good luck. And then she was like, okay, good luck, okay, bye. And when somebody sort of, because let's say the door is here, she looked to the door thinking I would walk, and I was just standing there scared, and she was like, you need to go in. I was like, I can't do it. And I wish I had your tips about mentally being prepared, because I was definitely burnt out. So really, really helpful. And I think because obviously the MPhil to PhD process is, and the upgrade is becoming more common now. It's sort of standard in most PhD programs, but I don't think there's enough discussion around how people can prepare and cope for it. The insights that you've given today has been really, really good, and definitely something that people will be able to use moving forward. How do you feel that, I mean, you've touched on it a little bit, but how do you feel that the upgrade process benefited you as a researcher, as a PhD researcher?
Yeah, I think, we've already touched on the fact that it prepared me. It was like a mock type of PhD Viva, which, as you mentioned, occurs at the end of the PhD. So now I know what the process entails, what to do differently, and how to be better prepared. But also just getting that, exposing my work to external evaluation and opinions besides that of my supervisors, including yourself and myself. It was very good. I found the experts' comments very insightful, and it did contribute to the progress of my work. So yeah,
definitely. And I can obviously attest to that. We've had those discussions where the process, I think it's good, but I can also see how it benefits the PhD researcher as well. And yeah, it's very interesting to see, as an observer of the process, the change, which you probably wouldn't have thought there is one in a way, right? But there is. So it's really good. I'm very excited about the next phase, the last phase of the PhD. Oh my gosh, that sounds so emotional to say. So yeah, it's really good. So okay, we've talked about the positives. What about the challenges? What was the most challenging aspect for you for the upgrade process?
I think for me, the most challenging parts would have to be the writing. Yeah, because I had to submit a report of about 20,000 words, and it just felt very long. And then the presentation as well, or preparing the presentation, because there is a given amount of time for the presentation, and it's 20 minutes. I was very conscious about presenting my research in the way that communicates the depth of the work I'd done and plan to do in a very clear manner within that amount of time. I found that difficult. Obviously, with the workshops, the presentation workshops, it was much easier for me to do that. But yeah, those are two things that were challenging.
That's very interesting to note, because again, from my end, I thought those were the things you were doing well at. So I thought, oh, you were really taking time to go through the presentation and take on the feedback to kind of move things around for clarity. And with the writing, it seemed as if yes, okay, there were things we had to go through, but it came across very well. So yeah, so that's interesting to note. But sometimes it's one of those things where the things that challenge us are the things that bring the best out of us, right? As well. But I would say for the PhD, because the upgrade you said was around 20,000 words, the PhD is many more words. I think some of the things, and this is just general advice for everyone as well, when it comes to the PhD write-up, in fact, probably need to start planning now. Plan with your supervisor a timeline and scheduling, because the writing load is a lot, but also it's even just the formatting. So make sure that you know how to use Word inside. Word becomes your best friend, and all the little tricks that you can do with Word. So yeah, that's the prep.
Yeah, and I think King's has a workshop for writing and even using Word as well, and all the shortcuts and everything. So
no, they do, so that you're going to be very well supported. And okay, so what advice would you give to current MPhil candidates that are preparing for their Viva, their upgrade? grade 5?
I think, said a lot of what I've done on my advice. So I think similarly, plan, look for where you have gaps in knowledge or skills. For me, it was presentations, it was writing. I attended workshops on those. So look for where you can improve those skills, anything to make you feel more confident. And then do all of that and try to enjoy the process. It's the experts are there to help you, to help your project, to give you advice, to improve whatever you're doing. So try to enjoy that, and yeah, it will go.
Brilliant. That is great advice. It's been actually a very nice opportunity to have this one-to-one conversation that everybody else gets to hear later on. And yeah, really, you've given some really great advice. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we end the episode?
Nothing. I've said a lot already. I just want to say thank you for having me on here. And I hope that the things that I've said will inspire people and help people that are currently looking to do a PhD or already on the journey like myself.
You've been listening to the Monday Science Podcast, a weekly show bringing you the latest research and news in science, technology, medicine, and health. We hope you've gotten some useful and thought-provoking info from the show, and we hope you had fun along the way. We know we did. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on our website at www.mondaysciencepodcast.com. Shoot us an email at info@mondaysciencepodcast.com. Find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Monday Science, and access episode summaries at mondayscience.medium.com. See you next week on the Monday Science Podcast.